Now that we better understand the SD-WAN architecture, let's talk about how we might deploy this in the real world. And we've got options. We can deploy the controllers, and by that we're talking about vManage, vBond, vSmart. We can deploy those on premises in our own data center, and this is going to give us full control. However, it is going to be our responsibility to maintain them. As another option, Cisco offers cloud-hosted controllers, where Cisco manages the infrastructure for us. And finally, there's the hybrid approach, where we might have some components on-prem and other components in the cloud. And for high availability, we'll want to deploy multiple controllers. In production, we don't want to have just a single vManage or vSmart. We want to have multiple instances, so if one does fail, our network operations can continue on. And I would say one of the most powerful features of SD-WAN is its ability to do zero-touch provisioning. Let's go step by step through how that works. Let's say that you're the network administrator and you log into vManage, you create a template for a new branch router. And by that I mean you're going to specify the WAN interfaces, the security policies, application policies, everything. And that template that you create, it just sits there waiting. Then a physical router is going to be shipped directly to this branch office location with factory defaults. Someone at that office, and they don't need to be technical, they're going to plug it in to give it power and they're going to connect it to the network. Then that router, it's going to boot up and using DNS or DHCP options, it's going to discover the vBond orchestrator. vBond is then going to authenticate the router using certificates. It's going to confirm that it is a legitimate device, and it tells the router where to find vManage and vSmart. The router then connects to vManage and vSmart, and it downloads that pre-staged configuration. And all of a sudden, it's part of our SD-WAN fabric. There's no on-site network engineer needed. There's no need to plug in console cables. That's the power of zero-touch provisioning. And please keep in mind, for the Encore exam, we just need to understand Cisco's SD-WAN solution theoretically. We don't need to do any configuration, but just to give you a better sense of what it would look like to do management, let's go out to a live topology and take a look at that vManage interface. Here we're sitting at the dashboard of what we've been referring to as vManage. And you can see that this interface is using the terms vBond and vSmart and vManage, but I want you to be aware that Cisco is doing a rebranding of this. So somewhat now and in the future, you may hear some of these SD-WAN core components referred to by a different name. Specifically, vManage is being rebranded to Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN Manager, vSmart is being rebranded to Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN Controller, and vBond is being rebranded as Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN Validator. But here I'm going to be using the traditional terms because the interface is still using those traditional terms. And very quickly, I can take a look at my overall site health. If I had any tunnels, I could take a look at the tunnel health. We can also see information about our WAN edge devices. But if I go into the menu in the upper left-hand corner, we can go under Monitor, and let's say we want to monitor devices. And I'll just select one of our edge devices. And you see it can give me information about my CPU utilization, my memory utilization. I can go in and take a look at the different interfaces, see what their IP addresses are, see the transmit and receive rates. We can scroll over and we see if there's been any adjustments to the MSS value. That's the maximum segment size. We've also got MTU settings that we can see. Those are settings that we might want to tune depending on our environment, and we can see all those settings right here in the GUI. Next up, let's go under Configuration. And you see all of these different options. This is where we would build our templates and policies. And for security, we can do URL filtering, intrusion detection, application-aware firewall policies, everything managed from this single pane of glass. And before we wrap up this video, I want to mention a few key things to consider when we're planning our SD-WAN deployment. First, think about your transport options. Most organizations are going to deploy dual circuits for redundancy, maybe MPLS plus broadband, or dual internet with 5G cell data as a backup. SD-WAN can load balance across all of these or fail over automatically. Second, consider your security requirements. Keeping in mind that Cisco's SD-WAN solution can integrate firewall functions, intrusion detection, URL filtering, and you want to plan what gets handled at the branch office versus centrally. Third, we want to define our application policies up front. Which applications are going to be business critical, which need guaranteed bandwidth, and which applications can tolerate best effort delivery. And finally, plan a phased migration. We want to start with a few pilot sites, work out the kinks, and then expand. We don't want to try to convert our entire WAN overnight. And that's a look at SD WAN implementation in a nutshell.